Welcome back to another edition of Components Breakdown. Today we're going to look at a light family strategy game called Rattus. Rattus is a 2 to 4 player game. It takes about 45 minutes to complete. It's got some variable player powers and some very light area control and area influence in the game. The game centers around 14th century Europe, in which the Black Plague has settled across much of the land. The objective of the game is to try to have as many survivors live out through the years of the plague, with the person having the most survivors winning the game. So let's look inside the box first, check out the components, and then we'll explain the gameplay and finish up with some final thoughts. This is the Z-Man version of the game, so it just comes with the English rule set, which is very easy to understand. It's 8 pages with plenty of examples. As I previously mentioned, this is a family game, so one shouldn't have too many troubles learning the rules and explaining those to fellow gamers. There is also a fold-out map, which we'll get to in just a moment. And the last components are sets of cards, and there are 6 rather large double-sided, very thick cardstock cards for each of the different personalities that one can portray in the game, and a set of cubes and rat tokens. The cubes, there's 20 for each color, and you can see them there. There is a set of rat tokens which represent the starting areas, and you can't see them, but I'll show you in a moment. They have a purple outline, and regular rat tokens. And there's also a plague marker, which is represented by that black marker you see there. It comes in a very nondescript box, no kind of printing on the inside, but all the components do fit back nicely. So let's go ahead and set up a game and show you how the game plays. The game is going to set up a little bit differently depending upon the amount of players participating. We've set it up for a 2-player game, and we'll quickly walk through the setup and then we'll go into a gameplay turn. The first thing that's going to happen is the board is going to be seeded with rat tokens, and one rat token is going to be placed in each of the territories that are being used for that number of players. There are 2 different kinds of rat tokens. There are rat tokens that have brown borders, and there are rat tokens that have purple borders. The purple borders are the ones that are going to be placed generally or initially on the board. The brown rat tokens will be the ones that are placed throughout the game. So as we show you again the board, all of these are purple rat tokens. For a 2-player game, you're only going to be using the light spaces, or the lighter brown spaces. For a 3-player game, you'll be using the medium brown spaces, and then in a 4-player game, the last 2 territories will be added in. When the game starts, the first player is going to place 2 of their population cubes, and each player will have 20 of these total, but they'll place 2 of them anywhere on the board in one territory. And then you go around clockwise with each person playing 2 of their cubes. And then you go back the reverse way to place 2 more. So when the game initially starts up, each player is going to have 4 of their cubes placed on any territory in the board. The last thing is that the plague marker is going to be placed randomly on any spot that the people can agree upon. So we just place them there to start off the game. The objective of the game, as I had previously mentioned, is to have as many surviving cubes that you can by the time that the plague eventually leaves Europe. And that is done through trying to manipulate the board, trying to control the areas that have rat tokens where you don't believe plagues will break out. So how is that done? On your turn, there are 3 different actions that you're going to take. The first is choosing one of the class cards that are included in the game. There are 6 class cards that shipped with the initial version of the game. There's the witch, the peasant, the monk, the knight, the merchant, and the king. And each of them have different actions. The cool thing about the game is that each player can have one of these, and they're not particular to any particular player. That means on your turn, you're allowed to take one of these and simply place them in front of you. The only way you can actually lose these cards is if someone else takes them from you. So on your second turn, if you still have this, you can take an additional character card and keep building them up. Now, there are some penalties to doing that, and we'll explain those once the rat tokens get revealed. So on your turn, the first thing you'll be doing is you'll be taking one of these cards. So, for instance, we will take the peasant. The second action you're going to be taking is placing one of your population cubes anywhere on the board, as long as there is a rat token in that area. And you can place as many population cubes in one region as there are number of rats. So there's 1 rat here, and we could place 1 token. Actually, we could place them in any area on the board because they're at the start of the game. There are tokens on each of them. We're also allowed to use our character card once per turn. The Peasant's ability allows you to place one more token than there are rats. So for this instance, you could place a second one on this region for the fact that you have the Peasant. The last thing you do is you move the plague marker. And you can move the plague marker to any adjacent region that's being used in the game. So when you move the plague marker, you simply move them to a region, and there are two actions that happen when that plague marker is moved. The first, the plague actually spreads. You look at the number of rats in that region. And right now there is only one rat in that region. So you're allowed to take one of these rats and place them in a region that is adjacent to where the plague is. There can be no more than 3 rats in one particular region. The next thing you do is you check the plague marker and see if there's any population cubes. If there is population cubes, then it's a possibility that a plague could break out. When a plague breaks out, you flip over the rat cubes in sequential order, any order that you so wish, and start looking at the tokens to see what happens in that particular area. Moving back a step, let's look at this area and say that the blue player had moved him here and placed his one rat token in an adjacent region and placed it here due to the arrows. So now what happens is you flip over the rat token and you will look at it. The first number that you always, or the first item you always look at is the number on the top. That's to check to see if an outbreak is going to happen. And you check the number and you check the cubes in that area. So the number on here was 2 and the number of cubes in there is 2, which means that an outbreak would occur. If there are less cubes than there is the number, an outbreak will not occur and this is simply discarded. So what will happen next is you will go through all the icons on the actual token to see what happens in that region. Each player, the first thing that happens actually is there are some tokens, I'm going to go ahead and place them here on the board, that have letters on the bottom. These always take place first after the outbreak happens. And the M will take place first, and the M stands for majority. So if one player has a majority of cubes, they're going to lose 1. It's possible to have multiple M's on there, so if they have the majority more than once, they're going to lose multiple cubes. And then the A stand for all. So each player is going to lose a cube, and then each player is going to lose a cube again. The third action that's going to take place on there are the iconography markers, and those represent each of the different class characters that players will have. So if you have a cube in this area and you have the king, you're going to lose a cube. If you have the monk in this area and you have a cube, you lose a cube, and so forth. And that's how the game will work from turn to turn. It's a very easy game to learn to play. There's actually nothing really difficult about teaching the game. There are a lot of nuanced strategies that you will have to learn and have to adapt, so it's very much an ability to adapt as the game moves on and try to figure out where to place your cubes, which of the classes to take, and which of the classes to steer away from. Going through the classes real briefly, and we'll do that. The Peasant allows you to place an additional cube over the amount of rat tokens that there are in the region. The Witch allows you to look at 2 cubes, either in the same region or in 2 different regions, and if they're in 2 different regions, you're allowed to switch the cubes. The Monk allows you to move a rat token from one region to another region. The Knight allows you to move the plague marker twice. So this is very much an attacking game. So you're going to want to move it into places where other people have tokens. It also acts as 2 additional tokens, so it can create a plague much faster with the Knight. The Merchant allows you to move up to 3 of your pieces from one region to another, so they kind of run away from the plague. And the last one is the King. Once per turn, you're allowed to take one of your cubes on the board and place them into the castle. Nothing can be hurt inside the castle, so these will all be counted when the game ends. Again, the game will end in a couple different ways. If the supply of rats over here has been depleted, and then on that after that's done, there'll be one more turn and the game will end. The other way, which is much rarer to occur, is if one player gets all 20 of their population markers on the board, and at the end of the turn, they don't lose any of them, they win the game. So that is Rattus. It is a very fun, light, actually kind of a light medium strategy game. It's very easy to teach, very easy to learn. It's easy to set up, it takes about 45 minutes to play, and I would suggest that anyone who is into a little bit of combative style gameplay and who is into an area control style game, So, thanks again for watching.